Many thanks for being part of us on Powerbrief. Tonight we look into this matter of accountability and rewards in leadership. And here we are looking on the roles of leaders while in power and also the citizens. What is it that they can participate in order to ensure accountability? Wakili Fred Ayako is with us, and we are looking on this matter in terms of legal perspective and also political, social and economic perspective. Wakili Ayako, on this matter of holding leadership into account, it not only takes the government or the authorities, the NGOs and what have you, to ensure that leaders are held accountable. Are the citizens playing the right role or waiting until leaders are out of power to start maybe complaining?
First, Mr. Musa, we are having a law in this country. And the law empowers citizens to elect their representatives to Parliament, to the Senate, and to the county assemblies. Remember, we are having two tiers. Our current parliament is bicameral. It means that we are having the National Assembly and we are having the Senate.
Yes.
What are the roles of the members of Parliament? It is representation, oversight, representation of the people, oversight, and participating in committees, in committee and parliamentary committees. So when they are representing the people, they represent the interest of their people. So when they are holding the executive into account, they are doing it on the behalf of the people. So the people should not be blamed for laxity. It's the House which should be blamed for not doing the right thing. People only come vote for their representative as stipulated in the Constitution, then the elected ones go to Parliament to continue with their work. So because the community should not be blamed. But it's not stopping there. As members of the public, they also have a leeway. If they see that something's not done right, they can petition public authorities, which Parliament is among them.
Because when you look at it, the Constitution gives them the right to exercise their rights either directly, by themselves, or by representatives.
Yes.
But you get these talks about how the leaders have betrayed the citizens and what have you. Actually, when you go to these citizens being represented, it's becoming a nightmare to most of them. So when it comes to them exercising their direct rights, that's where now they have a lot of question marks, not knowing where to begin, where to proceed. As a legal scholar, you can give them the way forward.
Not so many people know that there are avenues that exist that they can explore to hold their leaders into account. We do know, Chapter 10 of our Constitution, Article 10 of the Constitution talks about public participation, and we must serve the public of what our laws are, and we are not doing that. And that is not being done deliberately, because our leaders do not want the people to be empowered, because if they know, maybe it is to their own disadvantage that if the common is enlightened, then they will know which is a good leader and which one is a bad leader. And during the next day election, they possibly don't be elected. Yeah.
Now, as a country, you realize that our elections and also people are in position, most of the times it's usually surrounded under tribal balkanization, community A and B coming together to form the government. So you realize that even when any atrocities are committed by a particular regime, you find out that a community that sees themselves in power celebrates, and the other one is feeling that they are being sidelined or atrocities are being actually done on them. So what can be the best step forward to ensure that now if someone commits what is wrong, it affects the country? If it's good, it's for the whole country.
First, I would like to say that there's no problem with our Constitution. Our problem has always been implementation. Yes, currently we're having a concept called a winner takes it all as far as presidency is concerned, because you find that when a president wins, the person, the loser, or the person who becomes second, or the others,
Yeah.
all the constituents have nothing. They will still have to wait for the next general election. Our constitution does not even provide for the leader of opposition. The Lancaster constitution, we had that position, but currently we don't have it. We only have the minority, the leader of minority, and the leader of majority. But you can, there's an event, there's a circumstance that you can find that the leader, you can be elected a president, but still have less members of parliament to marshal that parliamentary support, so that you can be from the ruling party, but you are the minority party in parliament. Yeah, that's the problem which we should try to examine and come up with solutions. And back to your question, you are saying that you find that basically we're talking about winner takes it all, and how we can brought others on board. And that's where BBI comes in. We've been having the discussion on how we want to bring cohesion and inclusivity, all communities to feel that they're part of the government. And BBI is proposing that the loser or the person who becomes second in presidential election will have a shadow cabinet. It is not clear whether this shadow cabinet will be funded by the government or by the taxpayers. We are still waiting that to happen. And if that happens, then it can bring some peace in the country, because opposition is always a government in waiting. So that you can, as you are criticizing the government, that they are not doing this, corruption is thriving, they are doing that, this thing is not being done right. We'll also be looking, what are you doing with what you are being given in your shadow cabinet, so that you convince the masses or your people that, you see, me, I've been given this small amount of money, but see, I'm utilizing it.
Initially, we had such an arrangement of a shadow cabinet. President Kibaki, before he became the president, while in the DP party, he had a shadow cabinet. And even when he formed government, some of those people in the shadow cabinet actually held the same very position they were in the shadow cabinet. Were they being funded in the Lancaster Constitution? They
were not being funded. So we are still waiting if this time round they will be funded. It's not yet clear. BBI is not clarifying it. So we
shall cross the bridge when we get there, and we shall get to know what it really contains.
And if there will be funding, then in my perspective, I can say that there could be some inclusivity, because even if you lose the bigger seat, because Kenyans have been wired to think that the president is the ultimate prize. Yeah, so everyone is going for it. So if you lose the presidency and you are second and you are funded by the government, then people can feel that, yes, we lost the bigger one, but let's use this one to convince the public that next time we'll.
But you see, Mr. Wakili Fred, our topic tonight is focusing on accountability. Yes. And when someone assumes office, don't you think what should override everything in this person's mind is accountability and patriotism? Because you cannot have every individual in the government. For instance, when you talk of inclusivity, when you take office as the head of state, whether you come from region K and people from region Z didn't vote you, it's just upon you to find one from that place and then appoint that person to work in the government. Accountability, what we are focusing on. Do we need accountability or something in the law to have everyone in power?
Do you know, accountability is a personal matter. It's a personal initiative. You must always strive to be accountable, as prescribed in chapter 10, in chapter 6, which talks about leadership and integrity. So, a leader, let me give you an example of the Jubilee government. And I can say that the Jubilee government is not accountable to the people and to the Constitution, because our Constitution talks about the face of Kenya. The public office, holders of public office must reflect that face of Kenya. That's something which you should be accountable to it. You should always tell people that, yes, I'm doing this, but I'm bringing everyone on board. The Jubilee government has not been able to do that. Because if you look at the composition of cabinet, you find that 40% is coming from one ethnic ethnic organization, and it's a matter which is raising a lot of questions. And this thing has been happening, and the president has been reshuffling cabinet every now and then, and he has never addressed this issue. So, in my opinion, I say that the president has not been accountable to the public and to the constitution, and it's a very bad thing.
That brings me to the previous question that I posted to you, where I asked you of whether these things are happening in good faith, in that you wait until a regime is over so that you start holding them accountable. Look in this scenario where a regime has been in power for 10 years, and then there's been that marginalization of some communities. So do you wait until the regime gets out of office so that you start following them up and down, or this thing can be addressed in between before damages have happened?
They can be addressed before the damage is done. Remember, we are having public institutions which are responsible for oversight, for undertaking oversight roles. Parliament is one of them. And if Parliament is not also, you don't know, Kenya, we have a problem. We have a very good laws, very good policies on paper, but implementation is the problem. Parliament should oversight the president, the executive, and it's Parliament who should hold the president into account and tell them that you are not doing this thing right. We are not having the cabinet which is the cause of Kenya. Please do something. And it seems that the president has not been listening. So we can, if they are not doing it, and there's nothing we can do to make the president change his mind, then according to me, we can just wait after his presidency. Then we can examine his scorecard and tell the public that this president, he had the chance, but he didn't do this and this. Can we take any action? Yes, we can take. Which action is it? Can he be sued, or can we bring any court proceedings against him or her? Yeah, but there are still avenues which can use to reprimand the sitting president through Parliament. Yeah.
But there are mechanisms, there are provisions in the Constitution when you look at the NCIC, when you look at the National Gender and Equality Commission and all these government commissions. They have actually spelled out very clearly that board should not have members of this percentage from a particular community or of a particular gender and what have you. So even that has defeated you legal scholars to come in and offer solution, because the Constitution has been very, very clear on these matters.
Even if the Constitution is advocating for equality in representation in government offices, the Constitution is also watching for competence. And people who are the appointive authorities are always hiding behind competence in appointing, because they are saying that we appointed him, yes, he's coming from this community, but he's competent. And that's bring another question. Do other communities or the minorities lack competent people? Yeah, I think that's a question which can be answered by the appointive authorities. Yeah.
As it brings in the matter of accountability, because someone has to be accountable from A to Z. Now we are in this era where the second head of state is gone. He had a very huge impact on this country for the 24 years as a president, and many other years he was a legislator. So what is the way forward? Do you think the country is healed or is near healing? What can be done to see that the past is gone and there's new era in terms of social interaction, political inclusivity, and national cohesion?
If we are evaluating President Moi's legacy, we must focus on both the good and the wrong. We should not only focus on the good, because there are still families which are still suffering.
Which we looked at them. Now, those happened, and when we discussed as we began, you talked of whoever did it in the interest of the state, not personal interest.
No, I didn't say that.
When we talked of compensation.
I said that they can argue that they did it, for the sake of the public. Yeah, they can argue, but I can't say that they did it for the sake of the public. It's if we scrutinize those deeds, it's the TJRC scrutinized them and saw that there were some wrongs that were done and recommended that they should apologize. Or compensation should be, people should be compensated.
BBI is part of the process, which we don't want to go into that. It's a topic for another day. But what can Kenya do to find solutions over these, the bitterness, the pains, the losses that people feel they have, so that the country can have a new beginning? Should our focus be pegged on morals and patriotism or on the law?
Both. Mr. Musa, we should, the law is our ultimate defender. The law protects the interest of the weak. So the weak should always look up for what is written in the law. So we've had a very good process. BBI is just, I will say that BBI is a political process. Let me just say that it's a political process. If we want to heal the wounds which were committed in the past.
And Kenya has political problems. Our problems are more of political, right?
They are political.
Yeah.
And we have very good reports which were the committees which were constituted previously during the NAC government and immediately after the promotion of the Kenyan Constitution. These committees came up with very good recommendations, which if we implemented, then we'll get over the wounds. Yeah.
So solution can be found on that. But lastly, do we begin from the law or from morality and patriotism?
Both.
Where do we begin? Where does our first step begin? Because you cannot begin with the two at the same time. Tuanzie wapi? Morality?
Let's just implement the law to the latter. Remember the morality. Morality is not uniform. Morality varies from one person to the other, from one community to the other. What is moral to you may not be moral to me or may not be moral to another community. So to get that uniformity, let's peg our hopes on the law. Yes.
And patriotism.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fred Ayako, for your wonderful input on matters law and what political leaders should do while in office and even out of office, and the participation of the citizens into this matter. We have looked into the past regimes and how each and everything shaped the history, the stability of the economy of Kenya, the stability of the social lives of Kenya, and the stability of the political lives of Kenyans. We thank you for your feedback, your comments, and all your contribution on our social media platforms. Keep on engaging us on CAC TV. From me, Cornelius Omuse, I wish you a good night. Thank you.